Marvel Contest of Champions is approaching its 5-year anniversary, and this year at Comic-Con, I was asked what seemed to be a relatively simple question of what can Kabam do to keep me interested in this game for the next 5 years? I didn't really have that good of an answer. I had an answer. I had several answers, especially with my wannabe developer mindset. I was thinking like, oh, you guys want to know what I want to see in the game? All right, let's get into it. I want to see this. I want to see this added, entirely new game mode. That would be sick. And shortly after the conversation, I realized that nothing I said really mattered. It doesn't really matter what gets added to the game if the foundation of it is not solid. And the foundation of Marvel Contest of Champions as a whole, it's rock solid. It's built in this ever-growing Marvel universe with a unique fighting style different from other mobile games that just, the other mobile games, it's like how fast can you tap the screen? That's real interesting, right? This game, it has a smooth combo system that, each of the characters kind of share enough of that combo system that it's relatively easy to switch between characters. And then, as you get deeper into the game, you realize there's all these other mechanics that you couldn't see on the surface, and each character does feel unique. So there's so much depth for the players that do want to spend an extended amount of time playing this game. So this game, with that type of foundation, can easily go another 5 years, and maybe even beyond. But then we start to look at one level up above the foundation, I would say, into some of the core game modes. And take a look at something like Alliance Wars specifically. And Alliance Wars is not a game mode that I can say has a strong foundation to it. And that is putting it in as nice of a way possible. Alliance Wars, a lot of people don't really get excited about Alliance Wars. And maybe you could understand what I mean by having a strong foundation by looking at it this way. When Alliance Wars first came out, it was interesting. It was exciting. I think a lot of players really took to the idea where, wow, you can actually play against someone, even if it's not a one-on-one direct match type of thing. But the fact that it is a more competitive mode, I think that, that was a good addition to the game. But over time, as things have been kind of added to the game mode and built upon that foundation, it just has not. There hasn't been anything that has personally excited me. I mean, Alliance War Seasons, when it was first announced, it excited me, but then going through the experience, I didn't enjoy it. Anytime there was changes to the map, the nodes, all these little things, occasionally there was little improvements here and there, but for the most part, it's like, oh man, I already don't like Alliance Wars, and all of these things that are being added on top of it, they're not making me like the game mode anymore. It's the opposite effect, where, I think a lot of players, they only kept playing Alliance Wars because of their alliance mates. And I mean, of course, some people do really like the mode, so I can't speak for everybody, but the majority of people that I talk to about Alliance Wars, they don't really enjoy it. They play it because, again, they don't want to leave their alliances. And the players who I just say, enough is enough, I have to leave my alliance, a lot of them end up leaving the game entirely because you form such close relationships with the people in your alliance that once that's gone, and it's a lot of people just end up walking away entirely. And I think that is something that can be avoided, but I don't think adding anything on top of Alliance Wars right now as is going to do that. I just don't think there's any way possible without kind of going back and fixing the foundation of war. So, I want to talk about 2 ways to fix that foundation, and these may not be the only 2 ways, but it's going to address the 2 biggest issues that I feel there is with war personally. The first is, I want to find a way to put a little bit more control back in the hands of the players. Right now, Alliance War, it's not something that we can play on our own terms. We can play when the game says we can play, and we can play when our other alliance mates say we can play. And I'll explain what I mean in a minute. The other thing that I want to talk about in this video is I want to see Alliance Wars have more of a playground feel to it. And by playground, I mean, think about like a schoolyard playground, like recess, and how many different different kids are all in the same school together with different interests and everything, right? But when recess happens and everyone goes outside for recess, you have a group of kids that play sports competitively. You have another group of kids that they enjoy sports, but they don't want to be competitive with it. They just kind of throw a ball around, shoot hoops casually, something like that, right? And then you even have that weird kid who's off on his own collecting bugs. You got all these different types of kids, and yet they can all find a way to enjoy recess in their own way. And, it might not be exactly the same in Marvel Contest of Champions, but I think we can get pretty close. Where there's just such a wide range of players in this game, and I think there is a way to make the majority, if not the majority, then at least a whole heck of a lot more people enjoy Alliance Wars than do currently. So, yeah, I want to talk about both of these things. So let's start out with putting the control back in the hands of the players first and foremost, because this is the #1 most important thing that could happen to help Alliance Wars. Right now, especially in the more competitive side of wars, where people are boosting up, you don't really make a move unless you're capped out on energy. You wait until you have 5 energy. And then not only that, but you also have to wait until your alliance mate has 5 energy before moving, because the boosts are very expensive, and it just makes sense to get the most out of your boost, to make sure you have 5 energy. And if doing something like that on occasion, in the beginning it didn't seem like such a bad thing, but now that it's every single war, and it has been every single war for the entire time seasons have been around, for some people even before that, it just becomes too much, especially with this being an international game. Let's say you have 5 energy, you're ready to play right now, right? And it's a little bit late at night for you. You're looking to go to bed in about an hour. Well, the person that would be unlinking the node for you, they don't have enough energy to start moving, because they had to take a teleport, and they were down a couple of energy. So they're like, I can play in 2 hours. But what about you wanting to play like right now, and you're going to bed in 2 hours? And what do you do? Do you go to bed and do you hold everyone else up in your alliance, or do you say, you know what, it's just an hour, I could stay up, watch TV or something, or it happens so frequently where people kind of overextend themselves for the day, end up losing sleep because they're not able to play when they want to play. They're waiting, again, not only for themselves to have 5 energy, but now they have to wait for their alliance mates to have 5 energy. And it gets worse the deeper you get into war, because there's several different links on the final boss, and for the person who takes the final boss, they have to coordinate sometimes with 3-4 other people. And in the the end of war, in the North American region at least, that happens during the busiest time of day for a lot of people, when people are getting ready for work, or maybe they're already on their way to work or at work or school, whatever the case may be. And you find people saying, oh man, I'm in a meeting from this time to this time, and tagging 3 other people in the battle group, trying to figure out when the best time to go is. It's just impossible to get anything done in the day. And look, if you don't get anything else from this video, then what I'm about to say, then just please, this is the most important thing. It does not matter how good the game is. It doesn't matter what type of rewards are added, any of that stuff. It does not matter how good or fun a game can be if you can't play it on your own terms. If you are held back by everyone else involved so much, the game and the people you play the game with, at some point you have to give it up. Doesn't matter how good it is. There's nothing you can add to Alliance Wars to fix this. This is a problem with the foundation of Alliance Wars that needs to be addressed. So my suggested solution is to still allow boosts in War. It gives players control on, how competitive they want to be. You can choose to try to get away with not really boosting, or you can be like, you know what, I'm going all in. We're trying to be the best there is. We're gonna boost as much as possible. It gives players that choice. I like that choice. Even if I don't necessarily like the boost system, I do like players having that choice. But the boosts need to last the entire duration of War. If the boost lasts the entire duration of War, you no longer have to wait until you have 5 energy. You can move when you have 1 energy. You can take that next fight, whether it's to clear someone linked or just because you have an energy and it's a good time for you to fight. Why not, right? You no longer, it would be easier for the other people around you as well. They wouldn't have to wait on you. Towards the end of War, you're no longer going to have to coordinate with a bunch of people. Yeah, there would still be linked nodes, so they might have to tag you when a link is down or something, And I don't think that's necessarily such a bad thing. I think the linked nodes, they served a role in kind of bringing people together, because we do need to work together to clear the map. But we don't need such a strong dependency of, okay, we can only play all at the same time together in this game that, with everyone having different schedules and living in different areas of the world, it's just too much. And again, it does not matter how good the game is. If we don't have more control over when we can actually play the game, eventually you just have to stop playing. And that's a real shame. So I hope that gets fixed. That is the #1 biggest thing that can be fixed. If there's another way to do it, I don't really care how it's done. Making a boost last the entire duration of War, it seems like the easiest solution, but I don't really care how it's done, as long as it is fixed in some way, addressed in some way, and a big change. We're not talking about something little here, adding a couple of energy to the cap or anything like that. None of that stuff matters. It needs to be something major changing to allow us to play on our own time. Okay, let's move on to the second thing I want to talk about, which is giving more of that playground feel, like I was mentioning, where a wide range of players are able to enjoy this game. And this one gets a little bit more complicated, and I need to go through a little bit through a couple of examples through the Glory Store, just to kind of demonstrate something here. You'll see. So. The Glory Store just got updated, and it was a good update. I think players pretty happy with the update because there was cost reductions across the board. You can get some additional fragments. The Tier 5 Basic was the big standout for me personally. And just some quick advice for players out there: if you have a 5-star champion at rank 4, even just one, and you're going to need Tier 5 Basics to rank that champion up, well, then this is a great purchase. I don't think it really matters where you're at in the game. You may not be able to spend all your glory here if you need other things, but this is a great value. It's such a great value, in fact, that it makes me hate War that much more. Because I'm going to use myself and the numbers that I've come up with for myself and other players, and on a similar level. For the rest of this video. So the Tier 5 Basics, you can get 5 of these. That's 5,000 glory. If you are in, a top 20 Alliance, Quest Alliance, which would be the same as top 20 Beat Masters in War, you can get 5,000 glory every single AQ reset, and you can get all 5 of these, and that comes out to 25% of a Tier 5 Basic. That's a lot. But on average, it is 1,000 glory for 2250 Tier 5 Basic fragments. Now I want to look at the cost of potions for a moment. And when I was at my most competitive, especially using Void, who if you died with Void, or even just got low health with Void, it would take 9 potions to heal him up when boosted and everything. I was buying 2 potions every single day, including in the off season, because I needed to go into the following season with some potions in the overflow. It was the only way I was able to sustain it. So I'd buy 2 potions every single day, which would average out to 275 glory per potion. So we're gonna go by that number of 275 versus the 260 here. So let's say 275. Bust out the trusty calculator. 275. And let's figure out how many potions to use per war. I'm just gonna give a very conservative estimate of 5 potions per war. If you ask a master level Alliance War player, the average, I believe, is more than 5 potions per war, but let's just go with 5. Why not? So 275 times 5, which would be 1,375 glory per war. If you multiply that by the 12 wars in a season, that is 16,500 glory per season of these potions. Now, if we compare that number to the Tier 5 basic, so 16,500. So really, it'd be and if these are 1,000 on average for the purchase, it would be 16 and a half of these bundles. So 16.5 times the 2250 fragments, that's 37,125 Tier 5 basic. Now this number, it just got updated. And for all I know, we might see an update to the seasonal rewards next season. But I can tell you that even before this bundle was updated, before the Glory Store was updated, that war was already hurting my own progression. And I went into war knowing this. As an alliance, the only reason we even went back to playing wars competitively is because people just missed it. People missed that competitive atmosphere where everyone's trying their best, everyone's sharing videos with one another, sharing strategies. There was a certain group that missed it, and of course there was another group of players in the alliance that ended up just leaving because they know it's just not worth it. They know that it not only is it not fun, but they also know that it hurts their progression in this game. So with these numbers, though, so 37,125 fragments, that's what I would be able to get instead of buying the potions for the season. If we take that number and we compare that to the rewards that you get for the season, and that's the leaderboard. Whoops. If we look at season rewards, 37,000. Well, if you're looking quick, you might think that's actually more than what the master, that's more than what the rank 3 overall alliance gets for the season, which is not actually true though, because you also get war season crystals. So 37,000, when factoring in the war season crystals, it places you somewhere between Platinum 1 and Master, approximately. And just in terms of Tier 5 Basic. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, that's just Tier 5 Basic, though. What about the rest of the rewards here? How could it not be worth it? Look at all the other things that you get. Plus, that's not even talking about the per-win rewards that you get, all the shards and the loyalty and all that stuff. And I can tell you that it doesn't matter. It's not worth it. It's not even close to being worth it, because I'm only talking about the potion cost for war. And while potions are expensive, that's nowhere near the only expense, right? People buy boosts, people buy revives, people buy, or maybe not buy, but people spend units on changing their masteries for defense or changing their masteries throughout the war. And in some wars, you have to do that several times depending on the path that you're up against. And that's just the in-game resource cost that I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about the hardest cost to have to pay, which is just your time. The amount of time and energy and effort that goes into, organizing the alliance and, again, trying to work with each other's schedules, and, sacrificing your days at times just to play war. The cost is not even close. These rewards are not even close to being worth it for that cost. Even if you just took that free time and free energy that you are not trying to communicate and everything with the alliance, you just spent that time in the arena, I guarantee you, my account would look better doing that, better going that route, just playing arena versus trying to be in a master level alliance. I've missed out on featured 5-star champions because of it, and not to mention all the other milestones and everything. Plus, let's say you don't want to be competitive. Let's say you just play war in an itemless way, or very, very minimal amount of items. It's not like you're going from these rewards to nothing at all. you're still getting some level of rewards, and a Master or Platinum Alliance, they would drop down somewhere in the Gold level, most likely at least, where you still get some decent rewards. It's not like you're getting nothing. So is the cost worth it? No, not even close. And again, that's not because I'm calculating with the updated numbers. It was not worth it before the Tier 5 Basic got updated in the Glory Store. The whole reason I'm talking about this is because why even play War? Let's just cut out the middleman. Focus on Alliance Quest, which, by the way, if you're focusing on Alliance Quest, you could also rank champions for prestige instead of ranking champions for defense, or certain very specific champions to counter, bosses and things like that. You can put all of that effort into Alliance Quest and get potentially even more rewards out of Alliance Quest. We ended up dropping, out of the top 10 partially because of our efforts going into War. So we're missing out on rewards that way as well. But the reason why I'm showing this, like I said, is why bother? Why bother with War? Let's cut out the middleman, remove all that stress, have better progression in this game. Don't buy the potions. Go through wars without using those items, and just get the Tier 5 Basic this way. That's kind of the problem I was looking at, and there are a few solutions to this problem, and I promise this will eventually get to the playground thing that I'm talking about. But I want to put 3 ideas on screen. One, people would say to buff the rewards, right? Wouldn't that make War worth it again? Well, here's the problem when you buff the rewards. We saw buffed rewards in Alliance War. We saw where the best rewards in the game were in Alliance War, and it made sense in a way because Alliance War is where you have the most control over the outcome. It's the skill will win out in Alliance War, as long as we're not counting all the piloting and cheating and all that stuff, which still happens, but at least that's better. But anyway, it kind of made sense to put the best rewards in Alliance War, but in practice, that was such a big turnoff for a lot of players, and people quit the game and never came back. I don't think it works out. Not everyone wants to be competitive, so that's kind of the problem with buffing the rewards. I do think there is, of course, you do have to buff them slowly over time, just like anything else in this game, and some sort of cosmetic reward as well, which Kabam, they kind of already hinted at that, so I think they are going in that direction. They talked about it at Comic-Con, saying, wouldn't it be cool if you or your alliance did something cool, and you were able to show that off a little bit more in-game. So I think if you're adding rewards like that, where it's just a little bit of like bragging rights style thing, then that's fine. But we can't buff the rewards, really. We can't bring it back to the levels of the earlier seasons. That just was not healthy for the game. So then some people will say, well, why not reduce the cost for potions, or introduce higher level potions, right? I mean, we've had these level 4 health potions for the longest time that only heal 6,000 health, and that was fine when our champions were 4 stars, but now we're getting into 6-star champions. How is that still acceptable? So what about that? What about the higher level potions reducing the cost? Well, I think when it comes to Alliance War and Alliance Quest, they are 2 different game modes. And if we introduce a higher level potion, even if it's a percentage potion, or even if it's a potion based on our progression in the story content, or if we reduce the cost, either way, it's somehow reducing the cost. It's not really fixing the foundation of War, because you're still ultimately going to have to make that choice of, do I buy the potions, or do I just cut out the middleman and say, forget the potions. I'm just going to play I'm just going to play Alliance Quest, spend the rest of the time playing other modes, and then still play War casually. And it's always gonna be this impossible balancing act. And it's it maybe make things feel good temporarily, but we need a more permanent solution. I'm talking about things that will make this game last for, like I said, keep me interested for the next 5 years, right? So changing around these potions doesn't really help. And I don't necessarily mind these potions. Like, yeah, we could, and hopefully we will see different potions at some point here, but I don't necessarily mind the potions for Alliance Quest. I feel like they serve a good purpose there, because Alliance Quest is something that's more static. The difficulty goes up over time as your prestige increases, and occasionally Kabam does change the map up and everything, but it's relatively static content, and it allows you some time where maybe early on you struggle to get through your path, you have to use a few more potions, but it allows you to rank up certain champions that are going to help you on Alliance Quest, and if you can end up reducing the overall number of potions, which some players are able to bring that down to 0 some days in Alliance Quest, it feels really good. It feels like you're winning in Alliance Quest, because now you're able to get additional other benefits from the Glory Store. Because Alliance Quest, it's kind of set up in a way that you're going to win. You know, most alliances, it's just kind of expected that you are going to clear the map 100% every single time you sign up for it. And yeah, emergencies happen, and you know, occasionally have a bad day, don't have the items to get through the map, and all these different things. But for the most part, it's expected that you're going to clear the map 100% if you were even going to start that map, you know? So it's different. When it comes to Alliance War, even the best of the best players, they are not going through the map without using items. Maybe there's the odd war here and there where somebody doesn't take a lot of fights, they have a particularly good war, they don't have to use items. But the best of the best players, you know, if they're down 6,000 health going into a fight and they're at their most competitive levels, well, they're going to do whatever it takes to stay competitive and use that potion to heal their champions up. And someone could say, well, yeah, that's their choice to do that and everything, but I mean, why? I mean, just because you want to be competitive, why should it be so punishing? You know, versus if you choose not to use these potions and just accept, well, you know, it doesn't matter if I win or lose type of thing, right? Like, players have that choice, and they should have that choice, but it just shouldn't be so punishing for the players that want to be competitive. Again, I made a whole point of it to show the breakdown of rewards, to show that it's just never worth it to be competitive. So with Alliance War, it's a very different atmosphere. It feels very different. The way that you approach healing in War, yeah, you're trying to limit your items, but it's part of War. It's expected that, you know, a good war, you're still going to be using potions, whereas a good day of Alliance Quest, you're not using any items at all. So I think that we need to find a way for healing to be different in Alliance War if we're really going to fix, again, that foundation of War. Now, another suggestion that people have is just to remove all potions from War, because that puts everyone at an even playing field. We don't have to deal with any of this extra nonsense and keep it simple, right? Well, that's, I think, also a bad solution, because it's a 24-hour game mode. And if you die in the first fight, or maybe you survive the first fight, but you're missing a lot of your health, what are you going to do? You just sit out for the 24 hours that War attack is on? Like, I feel like that's just setting the game mode up for an even bigger failure than the current system that we have. So players need a way to heal. It makes the map a lot more interactive. If, yep, you made a mistake, but that's okay. You have a way of recovering, and it's a long game mode, so you can play on. So none of these solutions are good, and these, I would say, are some of the more common solutions. So we need to come up with another idea, and I just started kind of thinking about each one of these and thought about if any of them even go in the right direction. And I thought, okay, what about Alliance War potions for glory? If I'm saying, you know, these are too expensive and the potions kind of make sense in Alliance Quest in a way. Would that make any sense? And no, it doesn't. And another reason that I didn't mention is because Alliance War, it really should be more separate from Alliance Quest. There's going to be times, like Alliance Quest, I don't think can necessarily change. Not as much as what I'm recommending for War, at least. Alliance Quest, there are times where people will stay up a little bit late or something like that to clear their node, but it's different. It's not as high pressure. It's not as competitive outside of Prestige, which happens, you know, outside of Alliance Quest. There are things that you can kind of expect, and you have more control in Alliance Quest than Alliance War because it's the same fights every time. But there are going to be times where you just need to take a break from Alliance Quest, and there should be a game mode available to you when you take that break. So that's where War comes into play. War should always be a game mode that you can kind of just pick up and play, in my opinion. Even if you're taking that break from AQ. And if the potions still come from the Glory Store, then you're effectively forcing players to say, hey, if I want potions, I gotta play Alliance Quest 2. And yeah, I know these potions are available for units, but come on, the prices there are ridiculous. Most players cannot afford that type of can't afford the units to buy those potions. So I do think that potions or healing just in general should not really come from the Glory Store. And players, if they're enjoying War, that's going to keep them engaged in the game, whereas if players who have to put down the game because they can't keep up on Alliance Quest, well, they're not really playing any Alliance activities. So they are going to more quickly fall out from the game, right? But if you're able to still play Alliance War, if you're able to have fun in that game mode, eventually you'll probably get back to a point in life where you're like, you know what? Things are less busy for me. Let me pick up Alliance Quest again because I want to rank up these champions because I'm having a good time. Got some new champions, want to play them in War, need the rank up materials. Let's play AQ again. So I think they should be a little bit more separated in that way. And the reason why I'm going through each of these steps, going through all these different ideas, especially the more common ones tossed out in the community, is because it is going to lead to a solution. And I want you guys to keep in mind two of these in particular. One, that the way that you approach healing in Alliance Quest is completely different from the way you approach healing in Alliance Wars, at the competitive side of things at least. And also that I really truly feel that it is better for the overall health of the game to keep Alliance War and Alliance Quest a little bit more independent from one another. Sure, you're still going to need Alliance Quest to get those rank up materials, so it is going to be better for players, and they are going to make that connection that, oh yeah, if I want better champions for War, I got to do Alliance Quest and everything. But at least if players have a game mode to turn to, an alliance-based game mode to turn to, that they can play that is not going to cost them an armor. Like they've already put that investment in to get the champions that they have right now, and it's not going to take a ton of time. If they have that mode to play, they're going to stay more deeply connected to the game, and if they just take a little bit of a break from some areas of the game, well, chances are they'll at least continue playing Alliance War and eventually get back into it and really, you know, go all in on the game again if that's how they approached it at one point in time. So I want you to keep those things in mind as we come starting to get towards the solution, okay? So I was keeping those things in mind myself, like how can we, what's left? If it's not good enough, if it's not good enough to fix the foundation by having a different type of potion or reducing the cost, where do we go from there? Let's get wild with it a little bit, all right? What if Alliance War potions were free? And at this point, I'd like to take a moment to address Kabam. I'm hoping that you guys are watching at least, and you might be thinking, "Oh yeah, sure, just make the potions free, just like everything in this game, right? That's everybody's solution to everything in this game. Just make it for free." And look, I want you guys to make money. I want you guys to make money for a few reasons. Number one, I would like to see the development continued in this game. And number two, anyone who makes a kick-ass game like this deserves to make money off it. You made something awesome that people enjoy, so it's only right that you can also pay the bills with it, feed your family, enjoy life without having to worry about every little bill, right? You guys should make good money off of a good game. And I think there are more creative ways to do it. If you think back to a number of years ago, before free-to-play games existed, I'm sure the first person to suggest giving their game out for free and then finding a way to monetize it afterwards, I'm sure they were laughed out of the room. But that person, I mean, whoever the first person was to start that, they started a revolution, because free-to-play games, well, they're pretty damn successful. And this is just one game mode. There's already plenty of other games out there that are free-to-play, and they monetize the heck out of their game, but they have a mode that you can play for free. And sure, you can technically play Alliance Wars for free right now, but you can't really play it for free. Healing is part of Alliance Wars. What I was talking about between Alliance Quest and Alliance War, where healing it has to be part of Alliance War. Look at the point right above my head. If you remove any type of healing from the game mode, it's going to suck. And when you put a high premium on that healing, the game mode is going to suck. We need a way to fix this. This is part of the foundation that I'm talking about. And if we can find a way to fix this, we can turn it into that more of that playground atmosphere that I'm leading to. And I think Alliance Wars, not only will players enjoy it a lot more players will be around in-game to spend in other ways, and also creatively, it'll open up so many doors for the Alliance War developers, where they can add different things on top of the game mode to keep players engaged, to keep players looking forward to updates. So, let's at least explore this idea. Please keep an open mind about it, okay? How would this go if potions were free? Well, I'm thinking like this, or at least at the time, because this is not the final idea, okay? I was thinking, hey, let's just say everybody was given 15 items at the start of war to use, right? You can make it part of the scoring system. You can basically say, you know, whichever alliance use fewer items, they get some sort of a bonus score. And that it doesn't have to be a large bonus score, just enough that would maybe cover a couple of extra times where you died, and you know, be a little bit more of that tiebreaker, or just keep wars a little bit closer if, you know, maybe one group got lucky where there was a lot of close calls, but they didn't quite die as much. So you can use that as part of the scoring system. Essentially, every player starts with 15 items, and they could use those items freely however they want in war. But the items that go unused, they are counted up, tallied at the end of the war, and whoever used fewer items, again, on an individual battle group basis, they would be awarded some additional points. So it gives a way to change up the scoring a little bit, which is a little bit exciting. And I think it would also reduce the stress, because if you think about it, right now in war, at the most competitive levels, there are alliances that die fewer than 10 times per alliance war. That means that there are at least 20 players, the majority of the alliance, at least 20 players who had a perfect war. They did nothing wrong. They didn't take away from the score at the end of the match whatsoever. And if you die, that's part of the reason why it feels so bad. You are comparing yourself to perfection. It is impossible to be perfect all the time in these wars. Stuff happens, you know. But when you die, it wouldn't feel as bad if it was more of a sliding scale of performance rather than comparing yourself to perfection. At least that is what I was thinking originally. Now, after thinking about it further, I thought, you know, it might actually increase the pressure to be perfect. Because at least in a fight, if you make some mistakes and you come out alive, well, no harm, no foul. Yeah, you have to use some items, but those are your items. That's on you. It's not on the alliance. You had a perfect fight as long as you didn't die. So if the scoring is based off of number of items used, that might actually increase the pressure to be perfect. So I thought, okay, maybe that idea isn't the best, but I still feel like I was going in the right direction because again, we need to have a way to heal in war. Otherwise, the game mode's gonna suck. And the healing, we approach it in a completely different way from Alliance Quest to Alliance War, and we can't get the potions from the Glory Star. Can't just reduce the cost. Can't buff the rewards. All that stuff. It doesn't work. It's not gonna make the foundation of the game mode better. So, where else can we go from here? Well, if potions are free, but maybe it's on an alliance level, you know, it's impossible to take away all the stress and pressure from being competitive in something. That's just part of competition. There's going to be that stress and sometimes pressure to perform. You can't eliminate that, but you can give players the option of whether they want to approach the game mode on that competitive of a level. So maybe the best of the best alliances, they will still keep track of that stuff, even if there was a way to hide it in game. But for the rest of the alliances, if you are able to hide that a little bit, I think that would reduce the pressure. So instead of having 15 items for every individual to use, what if you just started out in the war and your entire battle group had 150 items to use? That way, sure, you know, it would still maybe not feel the best if you made a mistake and had to use some items, but you're no longer looking at your own numbers, and other players aren't looking at your numbers either. That stuff is kept hidden. But that introduces other problems as well. Because you know there's going to be that one guy that uses 120 out of your 150 items, and he's on the easiest path in the map too, which is just making you that much more bitter looking at that player using all those items, knowing that you're on a hard path, and now you can't really use items because this other guy used them all, right? So there's that problem. And then I started thinking, well, hold on. I mean, if the scoring is based off of the number of items used, then why is there a limit to begin with? You know, let that guy use 120 items. Let him use 1,020 items. As long as there's a way to compare the two alliances and figure out which alliance use fewer items on a battle group by battle group basis, then who cares? Who cares what players are using? So that's let's actually go over to Alliance War map and look a little bit closer there. And let's think about how a war would play out if players had an infinite number of items to use. Well, on the competitive level, it would probably be pretty similar, except now you're not having to spend on these potions. So if Kabam wants to design some crazy fight, and next time they update the map and throw some new challenges in there for players to have to adapt to and figure out, now it's not going to feel like players are being sucked dry. You're still gonna get that same feeling of, ooh, how do we best get through this fight. And drive people to acquire the best champions to get through those fights. But ultimately, it's not going to feel as punishing when you make a mistake. It's going to be a little bit more forgiving, and somebody who maybe doesn't always take a boss fight or a certain lane, maybe they'll be a little bit more willing to say, you know what, let me try that, especially in a war where maybe you've already won and you know that, or the opposite, when you lost and you already know that you lost, and now you can experiment and just kind of try out some different things and have a bit of fun. So there's that there for the competitive alliances. And if we look at kind of the opposite end of things, the newer players to the game, how that would make them feel. Well, a lot of the newer players, they probably don't have very many items to use anyway, so they might be getting stuck in some of these earlier fights, and that really doesn't feel good. If you join this game mode, you're throwing your champions in there thinking, oh, what's this all about? And you wipe out to the first pair of dominoes on the map. And yeah, it just feels so unforgiving. It doesn't really give you a chance to learn, because maybe you're not seeing this in the questing environment that you've been in so far. So if there was a way to freely heal yourself back up and get back in there and try again, the game would feel a lot less punishing and more welcoming to these newer players. In a lot of ways, it would serve to replace that idea that some people have where they want to see a training room in Marvel Contest of Champions, where you can basically pick the champion you want to fight and pick the nodes that they would have and everything. And I don't necessarily want to see that in game, to be honest. For one, I don't think a lot of people would take advantage of something like that. Or maybe I should say it like this. A lot of people would take advantage of that, but the vast majority of the player base, I don't see taking advantage of it. There's already such a large portion of the player base that will not go out of their way to find guides. There's certain, like, if you're watching this video, you are part of the portion of the population that does look for tips and guides on how to play the game and stuff like that. But there's so many people that they just download the game and they're just looking to have a little bit of fun with it. They're not looking to practice to be the best in the game and go through some training area. How about instead of having a training area, you just make the game less punishing? And this is coming from someone who approaches the game in a hardcore way. I do feel like it's just too punishing for newer players. Maybe you don't know how Havoc works, but if you're given the opportunity to find out, and it's a less stressful opportunity, knowing that you don't have to use these extremely expensive and valuable items, and you have a way to heal up and give these fights a shot, that's how players are going to learn. Not by giving them some optional training room when there's already so much time spent in all of these modes as it is. That how do you find time to go and do some training room on top of all the other stuff? Most people just can't do that. So you turn Alliance Wars into more of that playground where you give players that freedom. You give Kabam that freedom as well to start trying out some experimental stuff, because now players can't say, oh, you're doing this just to suck our items dry, basically, right? And make players have to spend, right? Money grab. Everyone loves to say money grab. And it definitely feels that way. Like, I get why players say that. Some of the updates where the mini bosses are added, it's like, what? This is ridiculous, But if items were free, and that was really just a test of strength, even knowing, like, hey, there's a good chance you're not making it through this node alive. But you've got some free items to back yourself up, right? And that's just part of the experience. I think that would be better for the game. And it does go against what Kabam's intended goal for the game was, where they said they don't want players completing the map, which I kind of understand their reasoning why they would want the game mode to feel that way, but I don't think that it's good for the game. I think it would be better if you did encourage players to complete the map. So is there anything wrong then with having infinite items? Well, sure, there's things that are wrong with having infinite items. I think the biggest one is just that it doesn't really make sense. What? Suddenly you just have this item number at the top of the screen, and instead of having a number, it just has an infinity symbol. Like, you just put a cheat code into Marvel Contest of Champions, suddenly you're playing like a hacked version of the game. It just doesn't feel like war to just have everything be so inconsequential. So I think we can find some sort of a middle ground where you allow players to heal, but maybe not have an infinite way to do so. So here's what I'm proposing for a final solution to this problem that I'm talking about, where players need a way to heal. Give players a set number of items for free and call them rations. Here's the way rations work for Alliance War. One potion is one ration. 1 revive is 3 rations because it will be a team revive. Team revive and single potions, and that is what you are given. And you are started with a fixed number. Let's call it 100. Just keep a nice even number. I feel like that's reasonable, that players are prepared for war, right? Why go to battle without being prepared for it? So you're taking in some amount of resources to recover health. And then as you play the war, there are other ways to recover health and heal. There are ways to gain additional rations by walking over tiles that currently are blank, but they can look similar to the way that they look in other quests, where there might be a potion or a chunk of ISO, or in the later quest Tier 2 Alpha. It would essentially be a pack of rations on the node, and when you walk over that spot on the map, it is added to your total number of rations that your battle group has. It is not individual based, it is battle group based. The alliance that uses the fewest number of rations on a battle group by battle group basis, they earn some additional bonus score. In addition to healing with these rations that you can find in war, there should also be other ways to heal. You can add them as part of the nodes. This Stark Spidey node right here, added to these nodes. I mean, first, this is kind of a way to heal anyway with Biohazard if you're taking in a certain champion. But let's just imagine that there's another node attached to this as well at the bottom that says defeating this opponent will reward the attacker with 20% of their maximum health. So essentially, if you beat this Stark Spidey, the champion that you used will heal a bit. Not heal to full, but heal a bit. This way, it feels a bit more interactive with the war itself, where you are doing these fights, you're getting some health back, but the healing is not totally dependent on the fight because, you know, what if it's just a node that you can't defeat, right? So you'd also want a way to heal externally with these war rations. And that is essentially the idea. Again, I think that opens up a lot of flexibility for Kabam to design some interesting nodes, to make nodes that potentially could feel more difficult and more punishing, but they wouldn't feel nearly as bad. And there's always going to be those couple of players in the Alliance that are looking for something crazy to try, right? They're the types of players that take nodes linked, right? These are the players that would maybe seek out some of these crazier nodes that there's not so much pressure to get through without dying. It's more of a, okay, let's see how I can kind of reduce the cost of getting through this node, because either you're going to die or you're going to take damage or something. But it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to break your bank. It's not going to stall your progression or any of that stuff. And I think that this type of system, where you can add those more difficult nodes and then add some nodes that kind of help and assist players, have a combination of the both, it opens up more of that playground feel, that interactive playground feel, and maybe there wouldn't be an infinite way to heal, so that there are times where maybe you're not completing the map completely if something really bad happens, but the general idea is that most of the time you're either going to be completing the map or you're going to be getting very far on the map. And if you combine this feel of more of a playground atmosphere of war with the first idea that I presented in this video of having a boost that lasts the entire duration of war, I think these two things will go a long way to fixing the foundation of Alliance War, allowing players to play how they want to play, how competitively they want to play, allow Kabam to create more exciting fights, or just a more exciting atmosphere in Alliance War overall. The sky's the limit once you have that kind of baseline. Hey, this isn't gonna cost me 3,000 units worth of potions, or this isn't gonna cost me the difference between picking up all of those packs of tier 5 basic versus potions. I think this would be great for the game overall. And finally, I did just want to touch upon the monetization thing one more time before I close out this video, because I am making a huge request that Kabam essentially reduces the revenue that they're getting on a per war basis, but by making the game better overall, that can drive revenue in other areas of the game. So let's talk about that a little bit, explore there's a couple ideas very quickly here. So the first is that you can have a somewhat similar system of that we're seeing with the titles right now, where you gain extra benefits by hitting certain title progression in story-based content. Combine that with kind of how Prestige works in Alliance Quest, where it averages out all of the players. And we're not going to use Prestige for Alliance Quest, but just in the way that it averages everyone out. So you would heal each ration in War. It would heal some additional missing health based on the average title progression of all of the members within your alliance. So, for example, maybe the potions heal for 6,000, but if every single member in your alliance is uncollected, it'll heal for 7,000, or Cavalier 8,000, or if it's 15 of your members are uncollected, 15 are Cavalier, it'll be 7,500 health. At this point, I'm just doing some simple math. You guys probably get it, right? So you can have that as a way to drive people to continue playing the story content, which of course drives players to get these new champions that will help them to get through that content, or if they want to try to rush to gain some sort of competitive advantage in War, then they they can use extra resources to get through that content, where that's also some money that they may have to spend to do that. And you might think, well, I mean, what does it matter if you have essentially an infinite way to heal? It wouldn't exactly be infinite, but if you had, if the potions were free anyway, then what does increasing the value of them do? Well, if you increase the amount that they heal, then you'll have to use less potions to heal up your champions. And remember, that's how the scoring works for War, where the fewer potions that you use compared to your opponents, you would get the additional bonus score if you used less. So there's something like that you could do. The War boost that I was talking about earlier in the video, where it would last the entire duration of War, I think while that may reduce the amount of boosts that some players use, if certain players are already boosting like 3 times a War, it would reduce that amount of boosts. But I think overall, the number of people that would enjoy War and also see it as, oh, if I pop this boost, it's not just an hour-long boost. This is going to last for the entire duration of War. I think more players will be excited to use that boost, and you can use those boosts to drive a few different things. Basically the same things that boosts already drive today, like the Reed Richards early bundle that you can get. You throw a couple boosts in there to kind of sweeten the deal, and now players are looking at it instead of saying, "Oh, I get 1 boost." Now they're looking at it like that boost is going to last me the entire War. And if you throw a few in there, oh, now I got boosts for the entire week. Oh, this feels good. Excited to test out these champions in War and feel that additional power from that boost. Or you can have discounted boosts with the Summoner Sigil. Maybe you get maybe include one of the boosts, maybe not the biggest boost, but maybe like a medium-sized boost in one of the milestones for the solo event that you get for having the Summoner Sigil, things like that. I think overall people will just be, there's going to be more people engaged with the game, especially when you can find a way to keep players engaged in a group-based activity, especially this game where the community is so strong, and as long as you're part of the community, it's hard to give that up, man. It's really hard to give that up, even if you're not super psyched about some of the areas of the game. Maybe you're a little bit busy, so you can't play Alliance Quest, but you still have time to jump in and play Alliance War, because now it is going to be less of a burden with if the boost lasts the entire duration of war, and now you don't have to wait until you have 5 energy. You don't have to play on someone else's time. And you don't have to play Alliance Quest to get all the potions. You have this game just a little bit more free and more open, and those players will stay engaged with Marvel Contest of Champions. And the more people just playing this game overall, the more people, the more opportunities that you have to sell somebody these additional packages, to rank up these champions, you know, and they, you know, if they're not even playing these other modes so much to, you know, to be getting all of these rewards that they can get for free to rank up their champions, they might just say, you know what, I'll just get this bundle for $50 or $100 or something like that, and then just continue having a bit of fun in war. It'll keep those long-term players more engaged, who already have these rosters built up. Now they can just kind of have fun with it. So that's kind of what I envision for the monetization side of things. Now, I would love some feedback about all of this from everybody watching this video, from the players to the hopefully developers that at least hear my ideas out, which I am appreciative of, that you guys even made it this far in what is my longest video ever. That is not a live stream, at least. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, please give me feedback. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. I don't care about any of that, man. You know, tell me if you like these ideas. Tell me if you think the ideas suck. Even the guys at Kabam, it's okay. You could reach out. I would prefer if you guys reached out and gave me some feedback one way or another, what you guys think about stuff like this. Any of the Kabam devs that I've met over the last 4 years at Comic-Con, you guys have to know at this point that I just really enjoy talking about different things that could be done in the game, and I just enjoy it. So yeah, feel free to hit me up about it. Alright, that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to stretch your legs, because if you made it this far in the video, you're probably sitting down for a while, and you need to get the blood flow going again. Alright, take care, everybody.